Ring, ring, ring. Hello. Welcome back to Articulate with Steve McJones. How's it going? This week's episode we have Bailey Ardrey, which is really kind of a random occasion. I just saw that he posted he was back in Lebanon for a little bit and hit him up, and we kind of hit it off. We used to be buddies back in high school, and we really connected on Legend of Zelda, and we actually saw the symphony together with our friend Kate Browning as well. And I don't know, I just kind of forgot how he was, and so it was really good to see him. Haven't seen him in a while. He goes to Columbus, and he's also, so what he talks about in this episode is his internship traveling to Hong Kong and Japan and China and whatnot, and just having a good experience and kind of what he learned from that, and some other passions that he likes. And like I said, we connected on Legend of Zelda, so I knew he was passionate about video games, so I got him talking about that a little bit, and it was actually really interesting to hear what he had to say. So yeah, it's a fun episode. In the episode we do talk about language a little bit, like from the movie Arrival, which talked about a little bit with Laura, and we bring that up. But I did want to say during the episode, I say, yeah, English isn't that, maybe it's a really hard language to learn, but I don't know if it's the hardest language. But there's also this example that I've heard of where it's like, yeah, in English we chop a tree down and then we cut it up to use elsewhere. I don't know, it's just kind of a down up, like opposite type of thing, but it's the same. I don't know, there's a lot of stuff going on in English, so I understand. I'm not that naive, but it was kind of fun to speculate. Anyways, enjoy the episode. It's a good one. Thanks. All right, Bailey Ardrey, welcome,
hey,
welcome,
what's
man.
up?
It's been a while since I've even seen you before the last time we hung out, man.
It has been a while.
Yeah.
Since we had Subway like a week ago?
Yeah, Subway like a week ago. I'm planning this out.
Right.
Exactly.
No, it has been a really long time.
Yeah.
I mean, like pretty much after high school, my family moved away, so it's been
Yeah, that
a
was
while
real.
since I've been back.
You got out of Lebanon though, right?
Dude, 3 days after I graduated, we were like, see ya.
Yeah.
So,
but you've been up to a lot, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, I've been up at Ohio State, doing school, whatever, college school stuff.
What are you going for?
I'm majoring in business and minoring in computer science.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've also been.
Yeah.
To apparently 3 or 4 different countries at this point?
It depends on if you count Hong Kong as its own little thing. But yeah, like 4 different countries abroad, and it was awesome. Yeah, I mean, Ohio State's been cool for that reason. It's just like opened a lot of doors to.
Oh yeah, that's true. So how did you learn about the opportunity abroad?
Yeah, so I mean, it was an internship in Hong Kong. So I wanted to go for the work experience, but also just because I knew I wanted to study abroad or do something abroad.
Mm-hmm. Now listen, I've studied plenty abroads in my day, and that's my favorite dad joke ever.
Yeah. Yeah, but the studying didn't end up working out. So we were looking at interning abroad. So
yeah, no, I mean I've never even left the country before. So I really I like the idea of going somewhere and traveling, but it was always kind of too expensive for me, or I just had the idea that it was too expensive.
Yeah.
But seeing other cultures and that's part of my major personally is restaurant, hotel, and tourism. Tourism is being able to go somewhere else, learn the lay of the land, and then be able to tell other people what's going on over there. So how did you choose Hong Kong?
Yeah, it was with an internship program through the business school, and there were a lot of different places I could have gone, but really at the end of the day, I wanted a culture that was really different than
Hong Kong,
than America. Yeah,
good.
I mean, it's pretty Western, but I wanted a culture where the people had different maybe values or belief systems than here. Yeah, and so I could have gone to Europe, Britain, UK. I could have done that. Could have gone to Australia, but I feel those places feel a lot I don't know. I mean, I've never been there, but
it's also the language too.
Right.
Even if it's the same language, how different can they actually be?
Right.
Which is probably really naive and dumb.
It probably definitely is, but I mean no, that's how I feel. That's how I felt too. So I was that was the other thing though. It was I wanted to go somewhere where the culture was different, but I also needed English because I had studied a little Spanish in high school, but like I don't think that was gonna get me very far in the business world.
Yeah.
So yeah, luckily for me, Hong Kong is one of the 2 or 3 places in the world that speak Cantonese. It's like a completely different language. So actually, they speak a different language than mainland China.
Yeah.
They speak Mandarin.
Really?
So
that's interesting.
It's Hong Kong, Macau, and I believe Taiwan, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
Speak Cantonese. So
okay.
When they do business with any other country, even in mainland China, they have to do it in a common language, and so English is that language.
English. Isn't that weird how English is just like, all right, this is...
We were just like, hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
We're not going to learn your languages. You have to learn ours.
You have to learn ours. It's a mix of yours, kind of, but really, yeah, no. You have to learn
Right. We're just...
The hardest language, too.
Seriously.
We're just like, oh, yeah. You know the hardest language ever that's ever been made? You all have to learn it.
Right. That's what everyone says. Like, English is one of the hardest languages to learn.
Oh,
so,
definitely.
Yeah. It's like on one side of the spectrum of languages. Because I feel like the other side is like Mandarin, Japanese.
Right.
Like
that's what I was going to say. I feel like Mandarin and Chinese, Japanese, like you have to learn symbols and like paintings, basically, to like learn a whole language or a culture. So I mean,
not even an alphabet system. In Mandarin, it's like every symbol just has its own meaning, and the symbols don't convey any like way for it to be spoken. You know how like
exactly.
If you see like ABC, like I can say ABC, but symbols, there's no way they're drawn that convey this sounds like an A, this sounds like a B.
Right.
It's just
based off of thought, memory.
Yeah, basically.
That's wild.
And there's like over 2,000 of them.
Yeah.
So.
That's what I'm saying. Is English actually the hardest one to learn?
Right.
But, you know. we'll
also, their sentence structure is completely opposite, too. Like, I'm learning a little bit of Japanese right now, and we would say, like, I eat the apple, and they would say, apple eat.
Yeah, apple eat. Apple
they wouldn't even say I, because I doesn't matter. It's assumed if it's just you and me.
Yeah.
And then, like,
that's interesting.
The subject would come first, and then the verb.
Well, so I talked about it with Laura a little bit last time on the last episode, but it was, have you ever seen Arrival before?
Yeah, so I was just listening to that episode on the way over, and when she said she hadn't seen Arrival, I was like, oh my gosh, like, you like aliens? Like, you gotta see
How
this
have you
movie.
not seen Arrival?
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's so good. Laura, if you're listening.
Yeah, watch the movie.
You gotta see Arrival. You have to.
But the movie... It's like the idea of learning the aliens' language is insane because it's learning basically a whole different way of thinking. Yeah. And that's what I really like about the idea of learning other people's cultures and stuff like that because like just even their language. I actually had I used to work at a bar, right? And there was a guy that he grew up in South Africa and moved to the Netherlands and Germany and Amsterdam. He lived all over the place. Wow. And he was just visiting at OU to actually like speak there and like talk about his, I think he was like an engineer or something.
Okay.
But he was just talking about language in general is like the way, like you can learn to converse with another person through just like hand motions or like, you know, vibes or something.
Yeah.
But language is a way to people's hearts is really what it is because it's so like ingrained.
I like that.
Yeah, it's just so ingrained in them. And like you said, I mean, it's like more than just like a way of translation of like talking to somebody. It really is like it shows how people think and like the way they form ideas.
Absolutely. Yeah, it definitely does change the way you think completely. What was something about like Chinese culture, I think, and now I'm blanking on it, but it was like kind of they taught something as like a chess game, like a game of chess.
Oh, in Arrival.
Yeah. Was that in Arrival?
It was in Arrival.
That was in Arrival.
Because
wow, this is all coming full circle. I didn't realize that was in Arrival. But that's probably why I thought about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Their idea of like it was like a chess game which was learning their language. Yes. But in that sense, it's like there's got to be a winner if you're coming at it like it's a game. Right. You know what I mean? So it's like coming at it as like a companionship type of thing as opposed to. Right. Anyways, that's a little bit more theoretical.
Super. It would be super interesting to dig into, but to your point, languages are super cool. And after I went to Hong Kong and other places that I might talk about.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
May or may not talk
yeah. Like, I just came back and really was like, found myself wishing that I would have studied it in school, you know, like, dang, it's so cool. Like, to be able to converse with people in another country. And there were so many times that I found myself just like really wishing that I could talk to people or like have conversations, you know, and so I came back and started learning Japanese for that purpose.
Oh, really?
Because I was just like, I don't know, it's never too late. Like, it's definitely, people say it's harder, like when you get older, to learn another language because your mind has been so English for like your whole life. It's a lot easier when like you're a kid and you're learning both simultaneously. But
you ever see Avatar, the blue people one?
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
Blue people.
Yeah. Well, they made a whole language for that movie, and like
Jake what was Sully, it called?
The Navi language or whatever.
Language, yeah.
But in that movie, Jake Sully is like the dude, and they're like they've tried to like teach Americans and like Earth people their culture, but it always ends up working out poorly because you can't teach. You know, that's like. These people's cups are already full. You can't like put a whole new culture within them. And he's like, my cup is empty though. Like I have nothing like anymore. Like I never started with anything. So he was able to learn the whole culture and whatnot. It's an interesting movie.
That has a lot of connection to this. I think language, because even some things they can't be conveyed. Like maybe the blue people, the Navi, were like trying to convey this to the humans that came to Earth and started destroying their forests, but like maybe you can't even convey what the importance is of these trees that you're taking down or like something like that if you don't know the language. Like there are even things in Japanese that you can like kind of high level say what it means, and so then as an English person I can like kind of high level understand, but I don't truly understand the meaning of that.
It's like I said, like language it connects to the heart as opposed to the brain, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I kind of want to get it, you know, like I like this idea of culture and learning languages and whatnot. But so what did you learn in Hong Kong about the people over there, and I mean about the culture what did you experience while you were there?
Yeah. Hong Kong was super interesting because it's this city that, you know, because of imperialism, was, you know, taken away by the British. And so it has like a lot of
did you learn about the history?
I did, because I had a friend who, he was born in China, grew up in America, now, you know, U.S. citizen, but was like obsessed with Hong Kong. Hong Kong is like his passion. Wow. And I was like, this is awesome for me because like you speak, you know, English or whatever, you have, and Mandarin, and a little Cantonese. You love teaching about the history. And so we'd just be walking around. He'd be like, yeah, so do you know why, like, this street is named this street? I'm like, no. Like, how do you know that? So, like, he just knew everything about Hong Kong. So, yeah, I did learn some, like, really interesting things. But the interesting thing about Hong Kong is that they're kind of their own little country, right? But they're, like, connected to China. But actually the people there really kind of don't like mainland China at all. I mean, for reasons that are kind of obvious.
Yeah, isn't there like a whole protest?
Right, so that whole thing started when I was there.
Right. What was the protest over? It was because, wasn't there like an agreement that after a certain amount of years that Hong Kong would become independent?
Yes. After a certain number of years, China would reassimilate with, is that the right word? Like take back Hong Kong, basically.
Oh,
so actually that was the agreement. Oh, so the agreement was in 1997. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 97. The British.
Great year.
Yeah, great. I mean, you know, one before I was born, but
classic.
I hear it's great. I hear it was great. But like, they basically the British gave Hong Kong back, and China said, okay, you know, we agree that for 50 years, Hong Kong will remain unchanged. So it will remain its autonomous country, like independent state, kind of.
Yeah.
So 2047, as a result, is like a huge talking point. Like you go over and say 2047 in Hong Kong, like everyone knows that's the year that this nice thing that we have that everyone loves, you know, like freedoms that people in mainland China don't have is probably going to go away. So it's like this ticking thing. That's
yeah,
like,
the 2047.
But the thing, right? But the thing
so
about
what triggered the protest then?
Right. So basically, the government in Hong Kong is really interesting too, and I learned a lot more about it.
Yeah.
Because it seems like a democracy, but actually only I believe only half of the chairs in their Congress, for instance, are actually elected by the people. The other half are elected by China.
Oh,
so
wow.
That's how it's kind of mixed.
Yeah.
But of the half of the people, that the people get to elect, there's a lot of foreign interest groups, Chinese interest groups, even corporations that would benefit, that kind of end up getting even half of those seats to be more of China. Yeah. On that political side of things.
Yeah.
So really
the business.
Yeah. So really it's kind of been China's been taking back little by little by little. So then they introduced this act. It was called the extradition. I think it's extradition. Yeah. I think so. Act or bill. And basically what it would allow is for people to be kind of almost brought back to China to be prosecuted. And it happened because this guy and his girlfriend went to another country, and the guy killed the girlfriend, and then because this is how it happened. And then they couldn't try him because it was in another country, and they didn't have a bill yet that they could bring him back to China and try him. So actually it's kind of
that makes sense.
Right, and that kind of makes sense.
Killing people.
But the problem is it gives China the power to start enforcing their laws on the people of Hong Kong. Right. So then
just because one guy
hey, you said something bad about our leader here, and now we can bring you back to China and try you and put you in jail. Yeah. So that's the fear. And now, to my knowledge, that's actually in place. So now,
that happened because you were there this summer when the protest broke out, right?
Yeah, about halfway through my summer, the protests broke out.
Wild. And you got to see it.
Dude, I actually had to walk through the one on accident because I was bad at planning that day. Because they told us hey, you probably shouldn't go to these. Even if I kind of agree with with the protesting, which I tend to agree. They were just being an American citizen, a white person from abroad, not a good idea to go there. The police might single you out and wonder specifically why you're there. So I tried to stay away from it for that reason. But I had to walk through it, and that was.
But your roommate went, right?
My roommate did go.
He was I'm going.
He was F it, I'm going, and he was right there at the front, and he was telling me about their different practices that they had, different hand symbols for toilet paper, bring up toilet paper. Hey, bring up
eggs.
Eggs, yeah, exactly.
They have a really intricate system.
Yeah, super intricate.
Americans could never protest ever. We would never like it to have a system of any sort, right?
No, apparently.
Yeah.
But no, it's pretty cool. Actually, we might be able to take some notes.
Yeah.
But so that was the one where there was 2 million plus people literally at this thing. All dressed in white. It was incredible. You should try to look up videos of it because it was just 4 miles people stretching and just peacefully walking and protesting. Wow. So the result of that was that this bill got postponed or basically it got
written off? Or
well, not completely written off, but basically, just
tamed.
Yeah, kind of blocked for the time being, I guess.
Yeah.
But they came back to it this summer, and I believe last I had heard it was enacted, but then it's China's almost even gone one step further, and they're not even really being discreet about it anymore. They're just no, we're taking back Hong Kong. Wow. So that's kind of the.
And you said you noticed differences with people that you text that are still over there, right?
Yeah, well, you even wonder too, if you should ask about it, right? Because I don't want to get them in trouble if they want to talk about it, but shouldn't, because those things are being monitored now. Yeah. I don't even really ask much about it, but it just seems that's almost an unspoken thing now. But when I talk to some of my friends back there.
Wow.
So
that's intense.
Yeah, it's super intense. But China's really interesting though, because we have kind of also to talk about another place that I went. I feel like in America we have this like view of China, right? Because they're one of the biggest communist nations, and like there's a lot of
tension.
Yeah, tension there now for sure. But even like as you're growing up in school, like learning, they're almost like
learning about like the Tiananmen Square,
right?
Like,
About like
some
all
of the
terrible things they've done, and like.
Yeah.
They're almost like the bad guys, quote unquote, right? Like we would never want to be communist for very good reason. Like I'm not saying that's not a thing, like definitely a thing. But I feel like what it does is it warps your perception of what the people there are like.
Yeah.
And like I think I was telling you this earlier too. Like the people over there are so nice. Literally some of the nicest people that I've ever met, and like I can't even talk to them. Like, you know, in their language, most of them. But, like, they're so kind. Like, they see you, that you're from another, you know, nation, and they want to talk to you. They want to welcome you to China. Right. And I just felt kind of humbled that...
Yeah, what's, like, an experience that you had with somebody, with just a person
from China? There was one kid on a train. I was on a train in Beijing. I think I was going to the Summer Palace that morning, which was awesome. I got to see some really awesome things in Beijing, like really cool, like monuments and things. So I was on a train, and I'll never forget this kid like walked up to me, and he must have been like studying English. Well, actually, he told me he was afterwards, but you know, this is the initial thought. And he's like, "Oh, hello, like, where are you from?" And I said, "Oh, I'm from America." And he said, "Oh, that's so cool." Like, asked me my name, and, you know, we start talking, and he's like, "Hey, well, I just wanted to welcome you to China." And I was like, "Thank you." Like, that's so nice of you. Like, I wanted to talk to him for so much longer, but, like, we ended up getting to a stop, and, like, his dad kind of, like, pulled, you know, he kind of pulled him aside, and I don't even think he really got off the train. I think his dad was just kind of like, come over here. Yeah. So maybe there's like, you know, that piece of it too. But like then they did get off the train, but I wanted to talk to him so much longer because I just thought it was so cool that, you know, this kid that I never met wanted to welcome me to his country. And like that happened, that wasn't uncommon over there. Like even in Japan that happened too. Thailand, definitely. They call Thailand the land of smiles. Because like everyone's so happy and nice. But
didn't you say they were like giving you like free food or something too? Or, like...
Yeah, well, like there were 2 times. One time in Hong Kong and one time in China where I guess I'll tell you about the time in Hong Kong. Like I was sitting there with my friend in a restaurant. They call them cold boxes is the name for them, but actually they're just cafes. The reason they got the name cold box is because to keep their costs down, they would lower the temperature or something. Yeah. Anyway, and so it was always like notoriously cold, so they started calling them cold boxes. Yeah. But actually, now that I think about it, it must have been in the winter that this happened. Like they wouldn't turn on the heat, kind of thing. So
that makes sense.
It's called the cold box.
For sure.
Anyway. So yeah, the waiter like came up to me and he was like, "Oh, like we don't get many foreigners here. Please have this like soup on the house." And I was like, "Thank you so much." Like it was just so out of nowhere.
Was it warm soup too?
It was very it was warm
soup.
Yeah, it was not in a cold box. Yeah. Well, it's funny because they're not even cold now. That was just like how it was, and the name is stuck. Yeah. Sure. So
that's awesome.
Anyway,
I mean, it's
cool.
so nice. I mean, and like you said, it's like coming from America, you have this idea that like these people are just going to be really abrasive and just kind of like brash towards you, and I mean, and I'm reading this book right now called The People's History of the United States. It's right over there. But it's like, as opposed to, I just feel like you said, I feel like when we're learning in history, there always has to be like a bad guy, you know what I mean? And they have to be bad for a reason. But if you think about it, throughout history, some people, you know, some wars are just like both people have good ideas and they are just not, you know, they don't align with, you know, the majority. So the People's History of the United States is telling like Americas from when Columbus discovered it to basically up until now, from the loser's side, you know, as opposed to like the victor's side. It's about the like the...
I bet that's powerful.
Yeah, it is. It's really interesting. But, you know, it just paints a completely different picture of... of like what you might think, you know, even China or like of, you know, Israel or... Mexico even, you know, there's just so many things.
Yeah.
And I just feel like on one hand, could be fixed, but that's a whole different thing in itself.
Yeah, there's a lot of perceptions that we have of other nations,
What I'm interested in is what other nations think of us.
Yeah, well,
and that's why I want to go talk to like Japanese people or like Hong Kong people to see how they think about like America, and like maybe work out issues like within our world over here that they have ideas for it.
Right. Like that. Yeah, because certainly there are things like we're not a perfect nation. Obviously, there's like a ton of issues here that we need to solve, and then you look at like some of these other countries and like they've pretty much solved it. So there are like so many learnings that we could have, and I think that was one of the cool things going abroad is like just seeing some of those things. Like take infrastructure for instance. Like in Hong Kong, taking the train is like a few cents. It's so cheap.
Really?
But then like you think about America and like our infrastructure is pretty old. Like there's a lot of talk about maybe we need to like do something about this, or like build some high-speed trains or something to like start to modernize that a little bit.
Yeah.
And in other countries they have. And it's incredible. Like imagine what that opens up for people in like poorer neighborhoods that are able to now like take this train and like
That's only a few cents.
Yeah, like go to school somewhere, like
maybe like
go to a job that maybe they wouldn't have been able to have access to before. That's just one example, but there are so many things that I think countries could teach each other.
Yeah.
If we were open to learn, but I feel like sometimes like America can feel like we've got to just do it ourselves and like
do our
America
own thing
first or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
well, and so that's where it's like kind of conflicting, because on one sense it's like you want each person to be independent and be able to make their own life,
right,
and like to make your own life is an accomplishment within itself.
Yeah.
But spreading that into other countries and like bringing it's like, well, this is the American life and I'm bringing it over. For example, I've been learning, so in my major we learn about tourism in other places, and what happens a lot of the time is like, say like Italy and the Mediterranean area. That place used to be all like, the Mediterranean diet is one of the healthiest diets in the world. Like you've heard of that, right? It's a commonly known thing.
I've definitely heard about the Mediterranean diet.
Yeah, it's based off of like a fish diet with fresh herbs and everything growing over there. But now at this point, you go over to Italy, and I heard somebody say there's parts of it that are just, oh, this is just like another Cincinnati, like
really?
Yeah, because it's so urbanized. Like people want to go over to Italy for vacation, and then they're like, well, where's McDonald's? Where's Burger King?
Yeah.
Like they basically want to go somewhere without having to deal with the culture, which is interesting because that's what you're going there for.
Yeah, that's completely opposite of like what I think is fun about like going to other countries. Is like going to, I would I would rather be in a place that's like super cultural and like super different than anything, and maybe that like maybe that building that looks like super cool is actually a Starbucks, and that's just part of it too. But like I don't know, like you just want to experience the culture, and it kind of takes you out of it.
So luckily, like now, what I learned is like this sustainability type of tourism, where it's you go over to say like Vietnam or something, or you go to a tribe in Africa, or just a little village or whatever, and you go and they do make like a program for like the tourists, but part of the program is like helping out with the work that they do daily, or like. They have a special thing that they'll do for special occasions where they stretch out. It takes like all day to make this like candy that they have at the end of the day, because they have to like
candy.
It's like a special thing, right? So they like all day they have to like pound sugar canes or something, and then they stretch it out into like taffy, and like the whole like it takes like multiple people. So you come over like as a tourist and you like work in that chain and like make it, and then at the end you're gratified with you worked with these people and like smiled with them, and then everybody gets to eat the candy at the end.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. So it's just things like that seem way better than just going to a place like staying in a hotel and then like looking around the city or whatever.
Right. I mean, yeah, for sure. I've been on like mission trips before where we did like a similar thing, but we were there to work also, like in Mexico.
Right.
But no, that's super neat, and I think I've maybe seen that more in like Africa than I've seen anywhere. Yeah. But you can do stuff like that even in a country like Japan or China or something. You just like stay in maybe someone's house, and I did that in Japan. It was awesome. Like to see like this is how these people live, and like it's so different than like just like the
sitting on the ground
things,
to eat or something.
Yeah, just like the easy, yeah, exactly. Like you're sitting on a little cushion with like a table that's low to the ground, and it's just like so interesting. But the hospitality too is amazing. Like you just feel so welcomed.
Yeah.
So
well, I'm glad you got to have that experience.
Yeah, for sure.
And it inspired something in you, right?
Yeah,
it inspired like a passion for it.
Yeah, you definitely like. I came over or back to the States and just kind of, I feel like if you can, like you should definitely try to have some kind of experience like that, because obviously like it's so expensive, and part of the reason I did it through Ohio State is because like I got some help paying for it, like because that's definitely like it's tough to get over there from America. It's expensive
for sure, but
it just kind of opens your eyes and broadens your worldview. So yeah, I feel like I came back with just a passion to learn more about different cultures and like even the language thing. That's something I've kind of picked up recently. But yeah, we'll see. I'm hoping to go back. I'm thinking about teaching.
Oh, really?
In Japan for a summer or for a year or two. So yeah, just like so that's like part of the reason why I'm learning Japanese. Like maybe to do that for a little bit before I like start my career or whatever. Like buy a house or anything. Go abroad again, because like when else are you gonna get the chance?
For sure. Yeah. Did you want to talk about games for change at all? Because like that's kind of where I was going, because it sounds like that is in a way it was kind of inspired through that.
I mean,
a little bit.
It's all like it kind of, so the way that I think it ties together is through empathy, because like empathy
because you go to another country and you realize like they have their own issues, and they also their own we have our own issues,
or their own things to teach, but just like understanding and being appreciative of their ways of life, and honestly like just being in awe of it. I think there's empathy in that. Like you have to, empathy is often like a term that I think we use like in conjunction with sympathy, like you're trying to feel a certain like you're trying to like be there for someone, like feel what they're feeling, like empathize with them. But I think also you could say just like understanding another way of life, I think is a form of that. But yeah, games for change, well that's a whole like that's video games. Video games.
Because I know that's one of your passions as well.
Right. So like two different passions. I probably have too many passions. But like I've always loved video games, but I think recently the games that like really draw me in are these games that are almost made to have some kind of a social impact, or they're made to get you to empathize with this person that is maybe going through something that you can't even fathom, or teaching you about just like really tough things, but like when it's through a video game, like you're kind of in that, like you're putting your feet in their shoes, like you're walking around.
A buddy of mine that was on like an earlier episode way back when, Mikey, he always was like, he brought up this point where he's like, TV shows, like the people in TV shows are basically your friends because you spend so much time with them, right? Yeah. So like in a video game, it's like you're basically like living through that video game in a way, and like you make these connections and have these different things with people in the video games. Right. So it really affects you. It does, like, it doesn't, it really affects you experientially. I think that's the word.
It's so interesting because I think when you think about like TV and video games, like there's a lot that's similar, and they often like both entertainment, we can definitely pull messages and like themes out of both,
Well, and that's the other thing is like you've always been, a connection between us has always been like Zelda, right? So that's from Japan. That's a completely different culture. Right. But it's still a popular game over here. So it's like video games are made all over the world by different people. So it's, combining all those together to create an experience that's relatable and creates empathy and puts you into those shoes.
Right. Because like when you think about TV, to a certain extent, like you're kind of a passive viewer of this, and yes, you're like taking things and like learning things. I'm not trying to like say that you're not in TV, but like with video games, you have this unique experience where you are in this. Like
you're making the decisions.
You're making the decisions. Like you're moving around, talking to people. Like you're in this world, and I think there's so much opportunity for like pulling different teachings out of that, and like to put somebody in a scenario that maybe they've, you know, never been in before. Mm-hmm. So like one of my favorite games for change is called Celeste. I don't know if did you have an opportunity to look anything up, or have you ever heard about it?
I haven't, actually.
Okay, it's like a 2D side scroller, but you know, super tight controls, like really fun, really hard. But like actually the difficulty is itself a part of the story, because you're playing as this girl named Madeline, and she's going, you know, she's decided she's going to climb this mountain. And at the beginning of the game, we don't really understand why, but throughout the game, you get to learn more about Madeline, how she's like actually really struggling with depression and anxiety.
Okay.
And so this weaves itself into the story through the difficulty. That's part of it. Like, it's supposed to be really hard to show the challenge that she's having with herself. And like, there are even like different characters that draw out different themes and things inside of her that she has to learn and kind of like reckon with.
Yeah.
Even this like doppelganger character that's like kind of chases you around. It's you, but it's
shadowing.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, Shadow Madeline, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to run away from yourself. And like, this is trying to show like what having depression and anxiety can feel like for someone, but in a video game, like you're almost like running from yourself. Like,
yeah, maybe
you hate yourself. Like, it's like these kinds of things that I think are really, it's just cool, like to live that through someone else's story in a video game.
For sure.
I think it's really neat.
And it helps you, like you said, like, so when you experience that in your life,
yes,
you can kind of like recognize it a little bit better and be able to just be like, oh, this is what's happening. You know? I think that's what we were talking about earlier, is like, it's more important to realize that like self-awareness and like mental states are normal and they're part of life, as opposed to just like you said, with physical pain, you're like, all right, I see this.
Yes.
This hurts.
Yeah.
You know, I get it.
Mental health is something that if you haven't really learned about it, you might not even realize that's what the problem is. So to your point, my favorite scene in the entire game, you're like taking this gondola from one side of the mountain to the other. It's more of like a cutscene, but like she's on this gondola with a friend she met on the mountain. His name is Leo, and the gondola gets stuck about halfway up the mountain, and it starts like swaying.
What's a gondola?
So basically, it's it's just like a lift. A lift from one side to the other.
Yeah.
So this like lift car,
I got
car,
you. We can refer to it as a gondola, but I just needed to know.
It's
so. A fun word.
Yeah, exactly. So it gets stuck about halfway, right? And it's like, Madeline freaks out. And she's like, she starts literally like having a panic attack. And like, the music swells and like, the visuals, like, it starts to get really close up on her. And it's also like a pixel art thing, so it's beautiful. It's like kind of closing in all around her. And she can't breathe. Like, she's saying like, I can't breathe. And so Leo tells her, like, comes to her aid. And he's like, hey, imagine there's a feather floating in the air in front of you, and that your breathing is what's keeping this feather afloat. Wow. And so then a feather appears on the screen, and there's a little box, and you have to just breathe and press the A button to like breathe with Madeline.
Yeah.
But what you might not realize is this game just taught you a breathing technique.
Yeah.
Literally, like, for if you were having a panic attack, maybe this is something that now moving forward, like, just like you said, if you're in a similar situation, feather, and maybe you can breathe, and
that could just be subconsciously too. Like, some kid plays that game and like years later just is having that panic attack, and like it probably just gets that flash, because I mean, they simulated it so well with like it closing in on her face and everything, right?
Yes.
So it's like,
it was super intense and then super calming and like relief, from this. And so it's just the whole journey of her like almost finding herself and not shunning that side of herself, but like by the end of the game you're working with it. And that's the coolest thing ever. Like, it was the dark part of yourself. Now you've gone through this journey, like you've reckoned with it, you've dealt with it, and now you're gonna work with it to progress. And
does
it's
the shadow
beautiful.
person like help her?
Yeah, so like there are different gameplay elements where like you're jumping around because again, side scroller. But like you'll hit the doppelganger and they'll like throw you up basically to get to progress. Yeah. So like you have to use it to progress. So it's really cool. Like in a way that I feel like only video games could accomplish, because you are living this story through Madeline, like in playing it. So it's like almost like a different connection.
For sure.
So it's cool. Yeah, I love Games for Change.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad that we got to talk about that. Yeah. So do you think there's people playing us right now learning?
I hope not.
Yeah, because I don't know what they're learning from me. Definitely
seriously.
nothing good. Yeah.
Can they start playing a little better?
Seriously, get your
Can we level up already?
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Put some. Maybe they have to put some like money into it to like get us.
Dude, it's a microtransaction. Exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's totally a microtransaction.
Yes.
Like, without the money, you can't progress.
Seriously. God.
Oh jeez. Holds us all back.
All right, man. Well, I mean, I'm pretty good on this.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of things here.
We've covered a lot of ground. You could definitely take like any of these things and like dig deeper. So
if
ever I'm in town again, like if you want to talk more about
for sure, I would love to.
I've loved it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming out, man. So yeah, that's Bailey. Isn't he just such a competent individual that is lighthearted and just great. I really like him, and he also helps me out recording the aliens bit video that I did for the last campaign, which was good of him to do that, and I wanted to thank him for that publicly, and I don't know, he's just a really great guy. And he also wanted me to mention how when he was in other countries, other people were super nice to him, and how we should be that way in America with immigrants and other tourists. Try to be the kid that's learning another language, and try to talk to other people. Just be nice, and don't be like, this is America. Don't come over here and expect me to whatever that is, whatever that whole thing is. Just be nice to people in general, but especially foreigners, because they're in a scary place. It's especially America, it can seem really intimidating. I don't know, it's a whole thing. But yeah, he made a very good point with that, and I definitely wanted to include it. So yeah, thanks for listening. I appreciate you guys. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Amen. I love you. Okay, bye.